Today we catch up on my week away at Microconf 2023. Let's deploy. Hello and welcome to Push to Prod. I'm your co-host Cole and I work on Userlot, a tool to help SaaS companies build revenue through customer success.
And I'm your co-host Dan Miller. I'm building a SaaS for the first time and learning as I go. Each episode we chat about all sorts of things to do with the world of starting, growing and operating software businesses. Today is the 23rd of April. And it's a lovely autumn day again. And Cole is back in the country. Cole, where have you been, mate? I've been missing you.
I know, and I'm sorry we're a bit late. We didn't get one out last week. Yes, I've been on my first trip overseas since the whole COVID shut down the world. And I went over to Denver in the US to go to Microconf, which we thought we might have a bit of a chat about today.
Nice. I am very keen to hear about Microconf. I have heard about it a lot. So first, what is it? Because there might be some people on the line listening who don't know what Microconf is. I know what it is, but tell me, what is it?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, look, it's a startup / bootstrapper focused conference, I guess. Started by Rob Walling and a few other guys that used to run startups or do run startups for the rest of us. As far as I know, it's been running for 12 years or something now, and I've never been. I followed it. I followed that whole sort of Microconf bootstrappy type, community for years since I think there was another thing called Cafe. What was it? Founder Cafe, I think
Founder
was
Cafe,
another.
yeah.
Do you remember that one? So I followed it for that long, but I've just never been able to go for a variety of reasons. So the whole thing is based around founders. I know they've played around with different formats before where they've targeted startups and then they've targeted scale ups, so you're basically trying to really get the best help for your startup as you can get. I think COVID sort of, pushed their numbers down a bit in the last couple of years. So they've gone back to one conference. This is the first real one in person since COVID. And so, that was in Denver. I think 230 founders
Nice.
that were there. And
Very nice.
yeah, obviously I took it cost a little bit of money to get there and everything. But I think I brought it up a little bit before because I've started to focus more on Userlot and I've sold my last startup and I'm not working, full time for anyone else. It was the first real opportunity to go, it's time to go over there, meet some people, start getting some connections again. The opportunity was there. So I took it.
Yeah, look, I've always wanted to go myself to Microconf. I thought it's such a cool thing. I'm probably in the same boat as you because I haven't actually had, things to be in the space to be there representing myself. So that's one of the reasons why. So how was it? How was the switch from going from aspiring to actually arriving there and, representing yourself, representing Userlot? That would have been so exciting.
And it was really funny, actually. I'll call it a bit of stalkish behavior, but because I knew I was going to go and I think I bought the tickets, I was early. I bought them in January or something like that. I think they went on sale late last year. I deliberately started thinking about I'm coming over. I don't know anyone. I literally knew no one. Only through I probably knew about 20 people there through Twitter or had already connected with them. So I started that whole process a few months back of going through and find. Luckily for me, they. On the Microconf Slack channel. So I don't know if people, I think they may have shut this down for intake at the moment, but there's a Microconf Slack community. I've been in there for, I don't know, again, years. I can't remember even when I joined it. But they create a private Slack channel group for the conference. And so as they're adding people in, you can start. Yeah. So I was obviously doing a bit of networking there, but then I leveled it up. I took it a bit further and literally kept my own list and then tried to connect with them through Twitter and LinkedIn. Because my whole thing was, this thing cost me, I don't know, when I added it up, and it's a little bit weird because I went skiing beforehand, but it's cost at least $7,000 or something.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I don't want to go out. My takeaway, my one thing I want is I want to know that I've made some friends that I'm going to have for the rest of my life, that type of thing. And when I say friends, friends, but also obviously business, connections and things like that. So, to jump ahead a little bit, obviously I think I'm well on the way to doing that because that's the type of community that it is. So that was definitely one of the big drivers there. And the things I took away from that was it's a conference unlike any I've been to be honest, which we can probably get into. Yeah.
That's probably one of the reasons why I think I'd like to go as well one day. It's a small community when you think about it, relatively people who are out there building their own software businesses, right? And so getting an opportunity to actually just be around each other and and talk shop and share ideas. That's the good part about it, and also good friendships.
Yeah.
it's nice hanging out with people who do the same sort of things as you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So like I have three main, I think, things we can chat through and stuff like that, and maybe a little bit of preamble of my trip over there, which might be fun. But yeah, I think overall, the takeaways I think we can go through are, how much of a welcoming community and the type of conference it is, because I think it is different to the others, and I'd love to just sort of bring up some of the things that I took away from that. Hopefully people listening, either if they've been, they probably agree, or if not, obviously it's something that they can take away from.
Cool.
The other thing, the structured parts of the conference, obviously sort of the sessions and talks, I think they're all actionable, and I think Rob Walling, who obviously sets a lot of it up, obviously with his team, he doesn't have to do it all now. I think you can tell they're very picky with the type of people they get to do a talk. It can't just be up there 30 minutes full of fluff. It's got to have things that you walk away with. And then the other cool thing, which I'll selfishly take away, was how applicable it was to Userlot, which I'll admit, I did not go over there at all with that idea of going over there to talk about Userlot and try to come home with sales. Like it was not that at all. But I'd love to, I think that's something that I took away, realizing that, cool, this is, there's some things here that if we either position better or we decide to position for that community, that there's some takeaways and there's some opportunities there, which would be even better, because then allows me to be more connected to that community again. Yeah, cool. So they're the things I thought I'd take away and we can talk through. I'm
very keen to hear some of those things. I'm also really keen to hear just general what sort of fun you had there as well, mate.
No, totally. So, I mean, obviously the first thing was the first big trip over to, anywhere since COVID. And because I left, so the last trip I ever did outside of Australia before COVID started was to go to Denver, which is, I don't know, it's sort of, so I've bookended COVID with Denver trips. And I was actually in Vail when the whole COVID, the world shut down and I had to get out of there. So I had an extra day before I got there. And so I went, you know what, I'm going to go back to Vail. There was other opportunities to go skiing with some other people. But I was like a day late. I couldn't catch up with them. They were going to some other ski fields and I could have tried to just go there as well and see if I can meet some people, but I hadn't been to those ski fields, like Bracken Ridge and stuff. So then I went, I'll just get in the car, drive to Vail. And yeah, that's exciting. I don't know like how many people have travelled by themselves. Like I like it, but then I get over it pretty quick. I'm a bit of a homebody. But that idea of getting in the car, like I got a rental car, and it snowed, so I ended up having to upgrade them. That's a whole different discussion, but I ended up upgrading to a better car, which was a really nice car, cost a bit more money. But again, being a stranger, I was like, do I just get the cheap little car and go driving up the snowfields, or should I get something that's...
probably not.
No, and my wife's like, no, spend the money and get something better.
What was the snow like up there?
It was minus 11 the whole time I was there. It was cold and it snowed on the... So when my brain's a bit rattled with days. I think I was Friday night, So I drove up there on Friday night. It's about a 2-hour drive out of the airport area. It snowed a bit on the way, and then when I was there, it was snowing. So the next day I woke up, everything's covered in snow. It was powder on the mountain.
Nice.
And you just don't, I mean...
Beautiful.
I'm not a skier. Like I like skiing, but I'm not what do I say? I'm a competent blue run skier. Like I can ski any blue run. Down a few black runs if I want to, scare myself. But I'm not that good. But as a result, in Australia, I don't go when all the powder's there. It's always the end of season. So it was really good to get up there when it was your whole boot disappears, behind under the powder. So that was cool. But I was there literally by myself. So you got a whole day, 2 nights, not even almost talking to anyone, which is kind of weird. But
it is a bit.
Yeah, but it is also, I don't know, sometimes I like that. But then headed back into town and that was the Sunday. The conference started Sunday night and then Monday, Tuesday. So it's like a 2.5 day thing, which obviously we'll go through. I think it's very much built for that networking thing. So the whole idea is get everyone in on the Sunday night, registration, talk to everyone. And I'll get into this in a minute, but like the Monday is much more ad hoc. So you're talking to a lot of people. So by the time you're doing the heavy sessions on Tuesday, when you're going to lunch, breakfast, dinner, whatever, and even after the conference on the Tuesday night, you're talking to people, which is really cool. Like you've met a lot of people. So it's a really good structure. They did well with that.
So in your networking session at the start there, how many of your folks that, you know, you met on Twitter and you're friends with on Twitter, did you actually meet in real life? Is there any that you can name?
Well, I mean, I did talk to Rob straight away when I walked in, but he was obviously running up to his room to do something. But I did get to talk, have a quick hi. Probably, yeah, like good 10, 12, maybe
That's
15
so cool.
people that had either
It's nice
known.
meeting Twitter friends in IRL.
Yeah, and on top of that, I did a really dumb thing, but I think it was good the way I handled it was. So just a quick background. I rented this car. I drove it back into the city to park it. Like I did one of those, you know, pick up at airport, drop it somewhere else. So I drove the car to the hotel, dropped my bag off because it's quite big. It had ski gear and stuff in it, and then had to drive like not a block. It was a good 10-minute walk away to drop the car off. So I did that. And on the way there, like I drove off from the hotel, driving down one of the main roads of Denver, and my phone, which sits in the wireless charging part of this car, slipped and fell down between the driver's seat and the console. You know, like they go down there and you can't get it. Like
it's no man's land.
And it was like, I could not get it. Then I was like, Colin, don't worry about it. Don't stress. Just like park the car. And then I was in my head, I was like, oh, what happens if like I park and this car is one of these ones, it's a BMW X3 where you turn the car off and the whole seat goes, like it's a programmable seat, so it resets itself to let you get out of the car. And I was a bit worried that when I turned the car off,
it'd crush
my phone. So I was like, oh, what do I do? Anyway, so I stopped the car finally when I get to the rental place, and I got out of the car, let it running. That's why I didn't want it to do that. And I've got my sunglasses on, and I tried to reach under the car seat and couldn't see the phone. I went, I'll go around the back. So I went around to the passenger seat, opened the back door, and I still couldn't see it. So I like put my head down to try and look between the car seat and the center console. And this is hard to describe on a podcast, but the rear seats, that like a lot of them have that pull down drink holder in the middle. Yeah. It was down. It must have just been down, but it's full plastic, right?
Yeah.
So I smashed my forehead on this plastic thing, and I didn't think anything of it. Oh, damn it, hit my head. And then I found my phone, so that's cool, got it out. And then I stood up and I'm like, what the hell? And I'm bleeding. Like it's just bleeding down onto the side of the rental car. And I'm like.
And now you got to go meet a whole bunch of strangers.
I've got to meet 230 people. Don't know them. And on top of that, man, I didn't even have tissues or anything. Luckily I had like a serviette. And I had to so here I am like walking back to the hotel trying to find a pharmacy to get Band-Aids. Like it was just the stupidest, embarrassing thing. But look, the cool thing is this crew, I just announced, it was so funny. I just announced it on the Slack group. Like I'm the one with the Band-Aid on his head. That's me. And it was really good. So obviously not only are they welcoming, it was a bit of an icebreaker. So it worked out in the end.
Nice.
But silly things you do. Yeah. So anyway, so I got there. I guess the first thing I'd want to get into is, how welcoming this community was. And I think I describe it as, like, you've obviously been to a lot of conferences yourself, I'd imagine, right, Dan?
Yeah. They're awesome scenarios, but you're right. At the start, it's all about meeting and greeting and getting to know each other. But there's a little bit of professionalism to them at all times, isn't there, right?
Yeah. And like I've gone to some before, especially when you get into the really big ones, not to poke fingers, but even Sastra is one of them like that now. It's so big that there's a lot of people there that are there because they're like, it's almost like I get to get out of work. Like I go away for 2 days, I can get on the drink and look, I'm not downing those things. It's like it's an awesome time to get out and network.
Different mindset though, right? Isn't it?
Yeah. Whereas this is not that at all, not an inkling of that. It was all people that they're spending their hard-earned cash there because if it's their business is cash generally, but at the same time it's and they're taking time out. Poor guys like if you heard Brian Castle's last podcast, like he's going through a lot right now trying to get stuff happening, but he still turns up there, and you just that just tells you the type of quality of the conference and what people get out of it. So it was more so than I thought, and just how welcoming, like you could literally walk up to any group and just be let in, which I thought was awesome, knowing that.
That is nice.
Yeah. And there is a lot of people there that have been there for a long time. So there's always a danger that it's like, could it be a cliquey group and then you have to hang out with the new people? And it wasn't like that at all,
Nice. That's good. I've always thought that, like, speaking to some of the folks that you do end up speaking to around the traps, the folks that are in the same space as you building software stuff, they are generally really lovely people. So I'm not surprised that you say that everyone was very welcoming at the conference. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And like straight away, like before you even got there, someone had organised like a run on the Tuesday morning. People started to organise like, because the conference didn't really do dinners or breakfast. Again, intentional to make sure that you sorted your own stuff out. And so people were just ad hocly building groups, but it was so welcoming. It's like, I'm down in the foyer at 6 p.m. Anyone want to go, and then you'd see like 8 people connect to them and then they'd go off for dinner and stuff like that. So that was really cool. And then the structure of that just aided it. So they had like a random lunch on was it the Tuesday or I can't remember. Yeah, Tuesday I think it was, where you literally were just assigned a random location and random like a group. So they had, apparently they did try and match it a little bit. So if you're in a similar tech field type thing, they might be the same. So obviously you had more to talk about. But yeah, you weren't in this danger of ever just like, finding 5 people initially and then you're stuck with them for the rest of the, like it wasn't it was designed to sort of break everyone out of that sort of mindset to make sure they matched. And then they have like a afternoon Monday session where it was like, I think we talked about that the other day. So I did do the pub crawl. The only negative thing was I don't think the beers that you provided on the pub crawl were actually craft, but I mean, that's fine. But it did what it was supposed to do, I thought, which was, 2.5 hours of, again, networking and talking, which was really cool. Yeah.
You know what I reckon? I reckon the reason why it's probably quite welcoming that you found is because when you think about it, the folks that tend to attract themselves towards a microconf-like conference are bootstrap founders, people that want to do things themselves, that people that want to escape the 9 to 5, 7-day, 5-day a week, working for the man type role. They're all in it because they actually just want to get out there and be independent. But by the very nature of that means that you're actually going to be quite a friendly person because you're around other people who are in the same boat and you're on the same mindset. So you're all going, oh, look, I found my people. Here we are.
And like, even though obviously most people are probably sided to that sort of geeky developer type, there's a lot more developers there than not. Well, maybe that's not true, but you just can't run a startup and do it in your bedroom and not talk to anyone. So you're naturally someone who at least is comfortable and knowing that you have to get out of your skin. So that's been really cool. Look, in the end of the day, all I'd say is like, just to wrap that, how welcoming it is up, like, the first, well on my way to connecting with everyone there via Twitter and LinkedIn. And after the conference, everyone's like tagging each other and adding it and stuff like that. So well worth it from that point of view. And I can only imagine the more you go, obviously there's a lot of repeat people, but every year there was so many new people. Like obviously I was, but the amount of people that were first timers was huge. So totally awesome.
Oh, well, that's good advice. And for everyone listening, hopefully we can catch up there in person one day. I hear there's one coming up in Europe in the near future.
There would be one. I think they do Europe like November-ish, and then there's Atlanta's next. So they've announced Atlanta next year, and that's in April. You go. Yeah. So
what was some of the big, the big highlights that in terms of the talks and stuff? Did you pick up anything interesting?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's too many probably to name straight away, especially now, short. We're going to try to keep these shorter, these podcasts. But yeah, as I said, they're very actionable. You could really tell that that's what they were doing. The first one, there's 3 that I took some things from. Again, there's more than that. There's about 6 or 7 actual real talks that went for, 40 minutes. I think they're all going to be available on YouTube at some point too, so obviously keep a lookout for that. Now the first guy's name's Dev, which is easy to remember because it's like Dev developer. I should have actually got his last name on there, sorry. But anyway, he did one about nibbling away at their ARR. He's basically talking about, obviously with the environment we're in, and if you're competing against large people, how do you sort of nibble away at their customer base effectively, which for Userlot, totally applicable, So his talk actually had a lot of stuff that I took notes on, but one of them particularly that I liked is how you go after either comparison pages or even, try and get contact with their customers through various different ways, like Google alerting and add some very targeted discovery ads.
Okay.
So yeah, like his cool thing with comparison pages, like definitely that you had to have them. Like we haven't actually built ours out yet. But it was something that we knew we had to do.
Oh, on your marketing site, so to say, here's how we compare to X, and here's how we compare to Y, where X is the major Goliath competitor in your space.
Absolutely, and it's about like being authentic and, you know, just and as a startup, I think you sometimes worry about that, and that's probably why we hadn't done it yet. There's a couple of probably reasons, but one of them is you're like, you know, I think the first thing is people think, well, I don't want to put SEO, I don't want to put my competitor names on my website because that drives people. I don't want customers to know who my competitors are. Again, which is bollocks. They probably know who your competitors are. But his thing was, you know, all the research shows that the best reviews on Amazon, for example, are 4 out of 5 reviews, not 5 out of 5 reviews. Because if you see something that's just 5 out of 5, your brain goes to, well, that's probably just rubbish. But if it's 4 out of 5, or I think the average is like 4.2 out of 5, they're the most bought products because there's, they're not for everyone. I guess that's what the comparison page is supposed to be. It's supposed to show the client that you as a vendor know who would buy you and who wouldn't buy you, and you're being honest when you put up those comparison pages.
Interesting.
And obviously you are mentioning the competitors, so you're getting SEO through that.
That'd be the good thing to be asking people. If you can, by any chance, get a hold of speaking to your actual customers, that'd be one of the questions you'd ask them, right? Is say, have you used these major competitors before? Yes. Oh, so how do we compare to them? Tell me. And that'd be awesome that you could get their actual quotes on that.
Yeah, exactly. And there's actually a whole other talk on sort of that, talking to your clients to get some of that feedback through.
Yeah, nice.
And obviously it's very related to this. The other actionable thing, I guess, a couple of the things were going to the G2s, the Capteras, those comparison sites, and actually trawling it for the negative reviews. And actually, this is where I see AI hopefully being easier to do, but I'm sort of fiddling with that.
And why would you do that?
It's, I guess, to help. So if you go through and summarize all the things that your competitors are struggling with, obviously with your product, you probably should be targeting that. Otherwise, why are you not? Like if you're going up against your big competitor on the same things that they're good at, have fun with that, especially when they're big.
We're the little folks, right? We're the agile ones. We're the ones who can pivot. So you're right. That makes perfect sense. If there's people out there complaining about stuff, then hit them where it hurts.
Basically. And like put that into your positioning, put that right up. And this is, I'll probably touch a little bit less on my last point around Userlot, but using that as a really good guide. You got the evidence there, and then you can market it.
Good advice.
He had some other things with SEO. He had some other. I haven't got right into this, but the ability to use Google alerting and discovery ads to actually put messages in front of people, not only in YouTube and stuff, but even for people who are running like, it probably doesn't happen as much, but when I first heard this, I thought, oh yeah, it might be interesting. For people who are using, for example, Gmail and not like a Google Workspace thing, which actually, funnily, some of my clients have seen them do that. They use a free Google Gmails. Well, because you got those discovery ads inside Gmail, you can actually target your competitors' renewal and price increase emails because they're going to go into those people's inboxes.
Wow.
And so you can actually target it.
Nice.
And I didn't even realize. I was like,
that is like super targeted. That is very smart, actually. You know, that is the moment where the person reading the email is thinking about buying and renewing, and that's when you want to be in their face. Wow.
So that's quite interesting. I have to do a little bit more research of that because I was like, I think if you're paying for Google Workspace, that's not the case, but I have to again, if it's applicable, go for it. That's the thing. Patrick Campbell's talk on pricing, obviously.
Cool. So for those that are listening, who's Patrick Campbell? Yeah,
so Patrick Campbell sold Profitwell. I don't know if for those who know that product, which is, pricing product, payments and stuff like that. He sold that to Paddle. And he's still very much involved in Paddle, which is one of the larger payment sort of SaaS products.
He's well known around the trap as the pricing guru.
There's 2 Patricks that sit around that pricing area, and he's one of them. So, so he came in talking, obviously he did touch pricing. So that was something that I did take away. But the thing before that, he was talking a lot about team and mission. And I thought that, from our talk the other day about startups and mission and stuff, he basically was looking at his old days at Profitwell and what things he took away from that he did wrong. And one of them was like, you know, what are these tech founders are like? They're like, oh, I don't need all that sort of stuff. And he was like, no, this is if he'd gone back in time, he would have done that stuff earlier. So having really clear mission and focus of what you're doing over the next quarter or half. Like, I love his idea of saying, like, if you come up with some initiative in your company, it should be so exciting and people should be aligned to it that they want to print T-shirts for it. Like, if you can't put a T-shirt on it for the next quarter, then it's probably not clear enough, or you're not like making it exciting enough. So
hey, that ties into that podcast episode that you and I recorded a few weeks ago, back to mission and, you know, purpose and value and stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. Cool. Yeah. So I really like that. Again, these are just these little actionable things that, like, you know about it and you know you need to do it. But it's cool to hear someone just put some numbers around it, like, you know, do 2, you know, for the next quarter, and focus everything, and keep every slide or meeting or whatever your backdrops, your Zoom meetings or whatever, have those things up there until people are sick of them. You know, or they're wearing T-shirts for the next 6 months with that thing on it. Give it a name, and it just focuses everyone, like, ruthlessly to whatever that is that you're, you know, targeting, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. So if you're listening to this and for the first time you're listening to Push to Prod, we actually, Colin and I recorded an episode 3. So if you go back and listen to that, you'll hear a bit about why we talk about missions and, you know, visions and purpose. And so it seems like Patio's talk, or Patrick Campbell's talk there, was right on the money there. That's cool. Nice. There's
lots of other things in his talk. The pricing one that I thought was really cool was just a little tip about your cancellation emails. That if someone cancels your surveys, you know, a lot of times you'll see a cancel where you get a thing come up saying, you know, what didn't you like about it or whatever, or, you know, are you sure, we'll give you a discount. That, you know, all those type of things are very good. But he said the number one question you should ask is what they liked about your product. And straight away, as soon as I thought that, one of the things that psychologically I like to think about is feedback loops, and how feedback loops can be both good and bad. But generally, well, they are. Generally, every bad thing, you know, if you think about people having arguments or whatever, it's all around feedback. You know, it's just like something happens, someone gets annoyed, which then causes the other person to get annoyed, and it just feedback, you know, and spirals out. I mean, we talked about this on the little bit with the Silicon Valley Bank collapse, you know, like this feedback loop of, oh, that person's going to pull their money out, or I'm going to pull my money, and suddenly just, you know, the bank collapses. You know, that's how a bank run happens. And so his thing here is just this simple hack to go, you know, someone's cancelling their account, they're not happy for some reason, and then you just ask them, well, what did you like about it? And just that brain hack of them going, oh, well, I really liked X, just puts the brakes on that negative feedback loop, and you get a fairly high, like, it's probably, I can't remember what the number was, but it was something like 8 to 10% would actually stop cancelling, because you're making them think about the positive part of using the product, you know, and it just puts the brakes on it. And I thought, man, that's a really good example of understanding how to break negative feedback loops, you know, just with some little hack. So I thought that was really cool. And then Rob's talk, he closed out the conference purely around building SaaS teams, I guess, and walking through. His was a really in-depth one, lots of numbers. I think we talked about his SaaS playbook, which is going to be coming out, the book. So I'm pretty sure this part is in that book. Yeah. But it was all about understanding the 10 departments that a SaaS company has, and the structure of who your first, second, third hire should be.
Ah, okay, right.
Based on who you are. Like, so if you're a single founder as a tech person, you probably should hire X. If you're if you're a tech founder and a sales founder, your third hire, well, your first hire should be whatever. And he said, like, it fits, you know, 80, 90% follow that. Well, the successful ones follow this playbook. Certainly Social Pinpoint followed that. Obviously, we didn't know those things. You just sort of go along with it. But it was really good. So that one had so much numbers and charts. It's worth getting his sheet and having a look at it, and keep it in your back pocket as you're starting to, if you get to the point where you are hiring, you know, third, fourth, fifth people. I thought that was really cool. The one thing he took away that he tried, and I'll admit I tried in the early days, don't hire someone thinking they can do sales, marketing, support, a bit of dev.
Yeah, okay.
And, you know, like, that's what as a founder you tend to do. You go, oh, look, we just need that. We're busy. if we hire
need
one
someone who can do it all.
person, we could just give them all this little stuff. And I remember there was people that we let go because they couldn't do it. So we set them up for failure, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He said, look, what you're trying to hire there is a unicorn. And he said, reality is you're the unicorn because you're a founder. You can do all that stuff, but you can't hire that. So don't even try.
I completely agree with that. Like even in our other business, Trade Guardian, we find that we get some excellent people working for us. They're all so lovely. And what makes them so good is that they're really good at specific things themselves. Over the years, we've tried to hire people who have said to us, I'm really good at this, I'm really good at that. And it turns out they're the ones that don't end up staying with us that long. Either we let them go or they self-select to let themselves go. Because, you're right. It's a different point of view. It's a different mindset when it comes to starting and running a business. That's why we're able to do it. Whereas some people just don't want to do that. They love coming to work.
He said that, so the only exception, he went into a lot of detail there too, was there is some roles that you can combine, which makes sense. So there is those sales marketing roles or the product and engineering role, and he literally spells it out. So it's like if you're trying to hide those ones, you can get away with it for a bit. But don't try and do these broad, cross-sectional ones, which has been really cool. So definitely, all I can say with that is go to Microconf YouTube channel, subscribe to it, and I'm assuming you're going to get access to a lot of these things because they're definitely worth looking at. And then definitely quickly, I'll just talk about how after the fact I realised how applicable it was to Userlot, which I just want to preface it with I did not go there with the idea that I would ever sell Userlot in there. I wasn't trying to come out of there with,
you're right.
I want to get 5-6 sales demos, whatever it was. It was not that. But I will admit there was that discovery element because I think we've talked about this where one of the positioning things, Userlot, we're looking at, can we get it earlier in that startup? Like in a SaaS company's growth, can we get a CS tool in earlier? And so I wanted to talk to people. And so the cool thing is literally on the first night that we just had drinks registration, I came out of there with 4 people listed who wanted to talk about Userlot when I got home.
Oh, cool.
So I mean, I was
a
like,
nice
wow,
bonus
okay,
side
this
effect.
is pretty cool. And then by the end of the conference, I think it's about 12. Again, I'm not out there trying to do it, but I just ended up with at least 12 people that we have to demo the product to. I'm not saying they're all going to buy or anything by any means, but it just gave me a bit of confidence that, okay, the problems we're thinking about of solving with Userlot for startups is there. And
you validated that.
Yeah, and specifically there was ones around that, yes, for example, for early stage, they might have a support team and they're trying to turn them into a customer success team. So that was definitely one I heard where it's like, and obviously that struggle, that difference. How do I break that mindset of being reactive as a support team into a proactive CS team? That's obviously a big thing that startups go through. The other one was knowing a bit of visibility about my key client and when they leave. So like I can't afford to have my key clients or my big accounts leave. Now that's a problem with all products, but a lot of these startups they're not all, because it's B2B, they're higher value. So if they lose a big client, that's a lot of money.
Well, what I've taken to learn when you've explained Userlot to me over the last few weeks and months is that the value is if you, as a starting up a SaaS, if you can get in there and you can understand and now start getting some metrics and some visibility as to what's going on in your business, in your SaaS business, and where your big clients and what their activity is like, that's the value that you actually want to get involved in. So I can sort of see now, when you say that you've validated that at your visit to Microconf there, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're right. Yeah. And so our tool probably would definitely, but historically because of our competitors and like if you talk to someone who there was a few people there who knew our competitors, but they also self-selected themselves in the sense that we can't buy them because they're too expensive, So that is one of these issues. We're always going to have this price thing. We hope we can do something where we can offer it cheaper, which is what we're trying to do. But you wouldn't want to do that if you didn't think that the market would even want it. And so I found just talking through some of those key values, and I guess the third key value was people who had a CS staff, maybe they had 1 or 2, and they're starting to be asked by those teams, we need a third, we need a fourth. And they're like, hang on, like that straight question I got was, how many CS people should you have for how many accounts? Like people ask about that all the time. Like they want that metric, and it's so dependent because it depends on how much high touch your clients are. But what then, if you dig a little bit under that, it's not so much knowing how many clients your CS staff can service. It's what are they doing with that time? Like, how do I know what my CS staff are doing? Is there a lot of time wasting? Is there not? So it's that team management of, even in a small team, how do I keep them focused on the most efficient tasks? And Userlot does that out of the box. So it's like those things I could see a CS person, an early stage bootstrap startup, using. And I think Userlot does it. And I was like, okay, well, one of the potentials here, one of the outcomes of going to MicroConf is a much more targeted position. Even if we do it for 6 months and see if it works or not, but at founders. So like if you're a founder that can set up Zapier, you can set up Userlot. So now I can give it to you at whatever, $100 a month, $200 a month, some low, cheap amount, because if you can configure Zapier, which a lot of competent founders can, then you don't need a 6 week onboarding, $60,000 onboarding fee, for us to plug it in. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So it's exciting. Again, I just want to, want people to know we didn't go over there to try and get that, but to think we're going to talk to 10 to 12, pretty successful early stage startups about what we do, just show the value of the MicroConf community. And not only that, these people are passionate about helping us succeed as well, even if they don't end up buying it. So awesome, man. Awesome. So anyway, that's what's rattling around in my head. As I said, like I only just got back yesterday, so I'm still a bit, but I will do what I can to get there next year in Atlanta.
Yeah, thanks for sort of giving the the insight, the first person insight into what it's like to go to the MicroConf there. Like I said, I've always wanted to go, and I'm sure there's people listening to the show here, push to prod, that probably interested in going themselves. So it's nice to sort of see that first-hand experience of it, Cole. Thank you. That's great.
No worries. And I'll just give one shout out to probably the most nicest person at the conference, and they're all nice, but that's Arvid. We all know Arvid from
really?
His
nice.
So I met him. Obviously, everyone knows. Well, I think most people know who he is in terms of a primary podcaster. I think he's already got out. He's such a machine. He got out his MicroConf. I haven't listened to it yet, but he got his MicroConf podcast out on Friday or something like that. So he's such a nice guy, and he did a talk too. And I sort of kept it separate to the thing at the top there, but that we talked about. But he's so good and he's so nice, and he's also like really passionate about getting people, especially in our community, to talk about the bad parts of and the struggles. And, what it's like. You can see it in his tweets and stuff, but he's so passionate about it. And I thought, he literally got everyone split up into groups of 3 or 4 and made isn't the right word, but, encouraged us to talk about, what was a big struggle or what was a big, overwhelming moment that we had running our startups, and just listening to people, it made everyone know that we're not alone in what we do.
To be honest, I think that's one of the most valuable things that any community could do, really, is to just support each other. So I like what he's doing there, getting people to open up to share those struggles, because that's what makes a community, right?
Yeah, and that's like this whole build in public, which obviously he's a massive pusher of. I said this to someone on Twitter. Someone was saying, like, why wouldn't you put your MRR or something on there? And I was like, to me, posting your MRR, to me, it's worthless, because like my MRR is going to be different to your MRR. I don't understand the value of it. I think if anything, all it does is, I don't know, it feels like for me, if I'm posting, it's almost like a brag.
I agree. Yeah, humble brags have got to stop.
Yeah.
But I'm more interested in hearing about person, who's running a SaaS, who's had a go at this one thing and is struggling with it, and is just interested to share some ideas with each other. Sure. That's way more exciting and more interesting.
Yeah. So we heard from Arvid, which I totally resonated with, that idea of, and this will flow on nicely to our episode 6 coming up around our production, SaaS type infrastructure talks, is especially early stage. If you're a tech guy, you probably will be the person who you're the only person in the world that can fix your product if it goes down, at least for some period of time. And the isolation that happens, and everyone ends up with this one night or this one afternoon or this one early morning where something happened. In Arvid's case, it was literally at a funeral, and he had to go, sorry, not a funeral, but a wake. He had to literally go upstairs to fix a problem, at a family wake, and then I know, again, Brian Castle in his latest podcast was talking about going away on a family trip and having to spend some time on the product, and like we've all done it. And it's just hearing that back and forth with people and understanding how much we've chosen this direction. It affects every part of our life. And so everyone needs to be talking about it, conscious of it, and helping each other out,
Cool.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Cool. So I talked a lot there, but yeah, hopefully.
You're going to go to another one?
Yes. I mean, the goal would be yes. Obviously, it costs money. I'll probably do it cheaper. I probably don't need to. Well, if I go to Atlanta, I'm not going skiing, so I obviously added some costs on myself. So, definitely we'll be planning that next April 20 or 21 or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So appreciate it, Kyle. That's been fantastic.
Awesome. No, so that's a good wrap up. We're going to close this one out though. So but if you did go or you want any other questions or you want to network with us, obviously hit us up on our usual channels. So, you can hit us up on our Push to Prod Pod Twitter account or pushtoprodpod@gmail.com. We're after suggestions. I think we're going to start our what do we call it? Was it production mini series? What was our?
That's it, man. We're getting into a mini series up soon. So if you're listening to this, keep your ears to the buds because we're coming your way with something a little bit different. But we're trying out things here. We're experimenting, so why not?
Yeah, excellent. And you can follow us. You can follow me on Twitter at Gomo. You'll probably see some more tweets around Microconf, and Dan's at Mr. Dan Miller. We do want to say we love, thanks for our early followers. We've still got, a good number of them. But what does help is if going into Apple Podcasts or Spotify and giving us that 5-star review. Always really, really appreciative for the people who do that.
Yeah.
But until next time, Dan, I will talk to you next week.
Brilliant, Cole, and welcome back. I'm glad you're all safe and sound, and we'll talk to you in the next one. See you, mate.
Cheers.